Hi everybody, so Catherine and Dave here from Fantasy Fitnessing, and we are here to preview our stats and picks for the Torian Pro in Australia. So I'm going to run through a few sort of stats we pulled on that sort of continent field on its own. Dave's going to run through some picks, and yeah, hopefully quick and dirty, give you some info and set you up for the semifinal. All right, so starting off, a little review of the games athletes that have obviously gone to the games before. We've got Baden Brown, James Newberry, Jay Crouch, Matt McLeod is back, Royce Dunn, and Ricky Garard also back, totally different reasons. That's 6 men that have games experience in the semifinal, and then we've got 5 women with Ellie Turner, Jamie Simmons, Kara Saunders, Madeline Sturt, and Tia-Claire Toomey.
Also back to
Australia, yes. She did not compete in Torian Pro last year. So it's good to see that she's going to throw down with her fellow continent semifinal people. And then in terms of semifinal athletes, there are 13 men and 11 women that competed in a semifinal last year. Looking at kind of how the semifinal athletes did in the Open, the top 5 athletes from the Open on the women's side is Tia, nobody's surprised. And then Ellie Turner was 2nd, Jamie Simmons was 3rd, Kara Saunders was 4th, and Madeline Sturt was 5th. So that's coming out of the Open. And then looking at the women's field from the Worldwide Quarterfinal rank, it kind of shuffles up a bit, and we lose Jamie Simmons out of the top 5. It becomes Tia Toomey, Kara Saunders, Ellie Turner, Bailey Rogers comes in at 4th, and then Madeline Sturt is 5th. So a bit of a shuffle of Jamie Simmons out of the top 5 and Bailey Rogers into the top 5 in quarterfinals. And then on the men's side, out of the Open, we have Jay Crouch, Ricky Garard, Baden Brown, Thor Hanal, and Zach Thomas out of the Open, and then switching into the Worldwide Quarterfinal ranks. The order switches up a bit of Ricky Garard on top, Jay Crouch in 2nd, and then 2 new names come in with Bailey Martin at 3rd, Baden Brown slides down to 4th, and then Jack Clark is 5th out of the semifinal athletes based on their Worldwide Quarterfinal rank. So that's kind of the top names, looking at the top 5s of each field out of the Open and the quarterfinals. To know them, watch them. And then,
at least on the women's side, they're familiar names, so it'll be exciting to watch them all compete.
Yeah,
together.
Bailey Rogers is kind of the sort of new name in the mix on the women's side, with her sort of bumping Jamie Simmons out in the quarterfinal ranks. And then Bailey Martin and Jack Clark, kind of the new names on the men's side. So keep an eye out. And then we kind of did a bit of a poll on like the total field strength of the semifinal as a whole. We did a podcast on that last week, kind of comparing them all. And the women were 6th, and that's 7th, and that's looking at the full field. But we decided to kind of narrow it down a bit, because the full field isn't necessarily what it doesn't represent how competitive it will be to get to the games. So we then limited down, this is all based on the Worldwide Quarterfinal finish of the athletes. We narrowed it down to the advancing spots. So for Torian, that's 3 games tickets and 3 last chance tickets. So the advancing spots, the women's field moves up to 6th. Not significant, but a little bit better. So we decided to then take it to just like, how competitive is it for a game spot? Everybody's been talking about Oceania, especially the women's field. It's going to be tight. And when you look at the average worldwide ranking of the top 3 athletes in Oceania, and the women move up to 1st from 6th, it's probably something to do with Tia being 1st, Kara being second in the world in quarterfinals, and Ellie Turner turning out 15th. So that is a tight race in that top three for the women. So that is the toughest region that we've looked at for athletes, game spots, worldwide quarterfinal rank.
Yeah, I was just, what makes this a little bit more impressive, just looking at the leaderboard on the game site. So there's, about 8,600 Oceania women competing in the Open, give or take. And there's 64,000 women in North America competing. So for them to be the strongest quarterfinal with, roughly about 1/8 of the participants, like, again, it's pretty amazing to see that type of strength given the size of the field. Also explains why kind of the full field's a little bit weaker, just because there are a lot fewer people in the space.
Yeah, and then I think because it is so competitive, people like Laura Clifton have gone team this year. She's not in the mix at all on this side of things, and I think Marnie Sykes has also gone team this year. So there's a couple of people that sort of are names that are in the top-ish kind of push of the field that didn't do quarterfinals this year, I don't think. And then looking onto the men's side, the total field strength for the Torian Pro men is 8th. And then narrowing it down to those 6 advancing spots for the men, 3 games tickets and 3 last chance. The men are also 8th. And then looking at the game spots, which is 3, the men move up to 4th place overall. So that's Ricky Garard was 11th overall in the worldwide quarterfinal. Jay Crouch was 19th. Bailey Martin was 25th. That's a pretty strong showing. And that's Baden Brown's 48th. He's not even in that top 3 being counted for that average.
Yeah, this one's a bit interesting because, you have, Bailey Martin in there, and Jack Clark, because you got a couple other big names in Royce Dunn and James Newberry competing in this semifinal, which just didn't even register at the top. So I think it's going to be a lot more competitive to get those games tickets than that number implies.
Yeah, for sure. And then onto sort of some fun stats that Dave's pulled for Torian and a few of his picks for the semifinal.
Yeah, so I guess, kicking it off, some of the things that I'm watching and I'm looking forward to, at least for me, this is probably the semifinal that I'm probably the most excited to watch, which it's good that it's the first week. It's bad that it's going to be in the middle of the night here, and the day job's just going to go out the window for a couple of days, but that's okay. I guess, point 1, Tia versus Kara. Excited to see them back on the same competition floor together at their best, finishing 1-2 worldwide quarterfinals. So to have that there, to see them together, because this will really be the first time since 2018 games that they've both been in top form competing side by side. So excited to see that, considering this battle between the two of them, Fibonacci final, redeemed in dominance. That got me into CrossFit to begin with. So excited to see the return of those two together in what potentially could be the last season for both of them competing.
Yeah, having those two going head to head is going to be epic, to quote Tia.
Yeah. All right. Something else looking forward to. So again, something else making a return to the competition floor, Ricky Garard. So again, a couple of things that you're interested to watch here is just, again, Ricky versus the field from kind of a competition standpoint. So, he did finish 3rd at Dubai back in December, which was, good to see his return. He did show at a top level, but not necessarily the strongest competition. So just to see him go out against, Jay Crouch, Baden Brown, Royce Dunn, James Newberry, a couple of these kids, and Jack Clark and Bailey Martin. So to see where he is against those athletes on a competition floor when all the chips are on the line. I know there's a bunch of money in Dubai, but it's a little bit different to punch your ticket to the games. So you'll see there. I think he's been waiting 4 years for this type of moment. So I definitely will see kind of the intensity and drive that he brings, but it'll be interesting to see how he matches up against everybody else.
Yeah, it'll be super fun to see him. He's there to make a splash. I really hope it's big. And it's fun to see him against some guys that have games experience in Baden Brown, James Newberry, Royce Dunn won it last year. Like, it'll be a good final heat. It'll be fun to watch.
Yeah. And I guess like those guys, at least, from Instagram, they all come off as mates of each other. So it'll be interesting to see how Ricky is potentially accepted within that group of guys. Like, you got, Crouch and Brown and Dunn. Like, they all seem to be friendly, banter back and forth on Instagram with each other. So it'll be interesting to see if kind of Ricky is, an outsider within that group on the competition floor, or if he's, giving high fives and hugs with the boys at the end of each event.
I think he's served his time. He'll be back. He'll be in the fold.
Yeah.
It'll be good. I'm not worried about it, but I'm excited to see it.
Someone else I'm interested in seeing how they perform on the competition floor is going to be Royce Dunn. So his season kind of, all over the place. So he was 604th in the CrossFit Open. And I think we had to go like searching for him in event one where he's, in the thousandth of place, 11th in quarterfinals, which considering he, won Torian Pro last year, was 15th-ish at the games, 16th. It'll be interesting to see like how he can turn it on. Like does have dad strength behind him and years of experience. I don't know if it's going to be too little, too late in order to make it to the top of this field.
Yeah, or it could be the thing of he knew through the Open he'll make top 10% without his even 90-80% effort, and kind of the same with quarterfinals. Like looking at that strength of field that like as it goes from the field to like the qualifying spots to the game spots, the men's field also got stronger. That he might have been taking a calculated risk of really not sending it on those quarterfinals. That he could come out and surprise us.
Yeah, definitely. I think he does have that to turn it on. And again, at 31, he's not necessarily needing to go full send. The recovery time is also going to be a lot longer versus somebody who's 22, 23. Yeah. So, potentially a calculated move. It'll be interesting to see if he can open up the throttle a bit when it matters.
Yeah, for sure.
And then another piece, Jamie Simmons. So I guess, looking at Jamie Simmons, a bit of, a Jekyll and Hyde there from a semifinal standpoint or a quarterfinal standpoint. So he had those first three events. I think she was top 5 in all 3 of them. And then, 4th with the other total and 5 with the heavy snatches. She was 30th-ish within the Oceania semifinal. So, to see her, I guess she'll have another 8 weeks of recovery between those two, but are we going to see a programming that is going to potentially push her to the Last Chance Qualifier, or is it going to be friendly for her shoulder and where her shoulder is at in recovery that gives her, opportunity to put it all out on the line there without risk of re-injuring or without that fear of re-injuring, to see her fight for that last spot?
Yeah, I hope we see her in fighting shape. You never want to watch an athlete when they're not sort of ready to give it. They're like 110%. So hopefully she's having enough time. It's kind of too bad that it's one of the earlier semifinals. A few extra weeks would make a difference for an athlete coming back from injury.
Yeah, definitely. And then I guess the last thing of highlight of this one is just, the transition of athletes that are coming in. So looking at, especially the women's field, it's a lot more pronounced there. There's 12 women competing this week, or not this week, but at this semifinal over the age of 30 years old. So to have, I guess, 40% of the field kind of on the wrong side of 30 when it comes to competitive CrossFit, it'll be just interesting to see kind of a lot of the youth coming up. I know there was a few athletes who competed team last year that are going individual this year. I think Gemma Huck was one of those that, have made that choice to, okay, like I'm going to give it a run as an individual athlete and gain that experience this year, when they're, 22, 23. So it's interesting to see just kind of the change of competitive landscape in the Oceania field.
It's kind of something we can see sort of, especially in North America, the younger athletes are coming in as older ones retire, like Carrie Pierce, and people out with injury, like Bethany Shadburn. Oceania is maybe a year or two away from that, with Tia and Kara sitting on top, and the men's field still got lots of guys with games experience that are going to keep pushing that top end of the field.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, now on the interesting bit, we'll see. Hopefully these picks go a lot better than my Open Madness picks. But for the games tickets, let's start with the men's podium. I got Ricky Garard finishing first, followed by Jay Crouch and Baden Brown. Taking a look at those are the top three. I think just Ricky is going to have a hunger for this one, so I think he's going to come out guns a-blazing. Jay Crouch, a lot more experience this year. He was 1 point away from winning it last year, and again had a strong open. And then just Baden Brown, who just kind of quietly 17th, 18th at the games last year. So that is my podium for the men's side. And then looking at a dark horse, so someone that could sneak in there in terms of making it to the games is Bailey Martin. So touched on him. He was third there from a quarterfinal standpoint, but he's really jumped up in terms of growing as an athlete. So depending on what page you look at on CrossFit.com, he's either 21 or 22. So again, really kind of hitting that full development stage as a CrossFit athlete. Has made his best open finish to this point. So he was 129th in the open. Previous best was 516th a couple of years ago. So again, seeing that growth there, and then just looking back to some of his past experience. So he is a past games athlete. So was there 2017 as a teen athlete, finished 13th there. But last year finished 8th place at Torian Pro. So he was one spot out of the Last Chance Qualifier with just, I think he was out by like 20 points. So a couple seconds here, a couple seconds there, he could have found himself above that line there. But interesting enough is that, three of those guys who went to Last Chance Qualifier that were ahead of him was, Luke Fiso, Con Porter, and Luke DeJong. So those three guys not competing this year. So really kind of pushes him up to, kind of that fifth spot, assuming all things, stay the same. But, with the competitive field, I think there's, enough athletes that can sneak out some event wins or competition points that, might give him a shot at the end of the weekend.
Yeah, that's interesting, sort of pointing out that the guys ahead of them that went to Last Chance aren't competing this year. Luke DeJong is one that kind of a bit bummed that he's not in this year. He was super fun to watch, and maybe that's why I didn't notice Bailey Martin as much last year. And the Fowler brothers are out. They were fun to watch last year. They're going team this year. So, yeah, I think Ricky Garard and Jay Crouch being 1-2, I don't know who's going to say otherwise. But it's kind of fun that Baden Brown and those guys might have a little bit of competition.
Yeah, or some of the old faces. You got Dunn and Newbury in there. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. So I think it'll be a lot more competitive than some people think. And it'll be interesting to see, especially to kick things off again this year.
It's a great semifinal for the kickoff weekend. And then on to the picks for the women's side.
Okay, this one, kind of a no-brainer, 1 and 2. I got Tia and Kara finishing 1-2. And then Ellie Turner, I have third. Again, she just continues to be on this huge upswing this year, starting at Wodapalooza and then finishing, 10th worldwide in the CrossFit semifinals, or quarterfinals there. So kind of see those are the top three, which is unfortunate to see Jamie Simmons likely pushed out to Last Chance Qualifier. It'd be great to see her back at the games this year after all the work she's done on her shoulder that way. And then Dark Horse, kind of have two, because I feel the first one's cheating a bit and picking Maddie Sturt. It's kind of hard when your Dark Horse has been to the games 4 times as an individual athlete, but that's kind of where she finds herself. So hopefully she is able to, again, make that spot. It'd be great to see her back at the games. She did finish third last year in Last Chance Qualifier, albeit a distant third. So again, right there on the verge. But as I think she's 25 this year, so she still has plenty of competitive time left in from that standpoint. And then a second athlete on the women's side I just want to keep my eye on is Gemma Hawk. She was training out of CrossFit Torian, so 23 years old. So again, right on another up and comer. Had a seventh in quarterfinals. So again, right there in the mix. However, she just has had a big jump again in her open this year. So went from 492nd a couple of years ago up to 328th. But that steady improvement, 12th at Torian last year. So again, another year of training could give her a good shot to make it up.
Yeah, it's always fun to have a dark horse be sort of somebody new. But in this case, Maddie Sturt might be a dark horse, which is kind of crazy. So, yeah, there's definitely names outside of the qualifying spots on both men and women here. Yeah, it's going to be good. I'm stoked.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see who else. Obviously, there's 9 other quarterfinal or semifinals with a ton of strength, but it's not going to be or wouldn't be surprising to see 2 female Oceania athletes make it out of Last Chance Qualifier. So,
it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out with the strength out of this one. But as we preview all the rest of them, we may change and be like, nope, these people are going to be in there too.
Yeah, by the end of the series, we'll have 28 people making it out of Last Chance Qualifier.
Exactly. So there you go. So that's our preview on Torian Pro. A little highlight of the athletes, who's who, what have they done so far this season, and who we think is going to perform at Torian. So yeah, make sure you follow us on Instagram at Fantasy Fitnessing and sign up on fantasyfitnessing.com for all of our fantasy sports games that we play. We're going to have salary cap games, and there are sort of draft rooms open. If you get maybe you and 4 or 5 other buddies together, you can draft the athletes each weekend to make your fantasy roster. And I would pick some of these guys that we just highlighted. And yeah, any last bits, Dave, or that's it?
No, I'm excited to get going. The semifinal season is here.
The meat of the season is here. Mm-hmm. All right, so that's it from us, and we'll see you on the leaderboard.